Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us here tonight. We have an incredible session for you all. I'm so excited about it. Hi, Daphne. Hi, I can see everyone in the chat. We have, hi, Amy. Hi, Kat. So tonight, our facilitator is actually from South Africa, which is really exciting. She woke up super early, I think at 3 a.m. to be here with us for 4 a.m. For her. So hi, Kaylin. So if you could just write in where you're logging in from, I think it would be a really cool thing for her to see where our community is based out of because she's in South Africa. So please write in, where are you logging in from? All right, we got Pittsburgh, Brooklyn, Denver, Qatar, Chicago, California, Oakland. So awesome. Hi, Iris, I see you. Southern California, Iowa, amazing. I love that everybody's just coming together. Florida, beautiful. So I am just so excited to announce what we're doing tonight and talk about our facilitator. So this workshop tonight is going to be an interactive talk where you will be introduced to shadow work. Please write in the comments if you know what shadow work is, yes or no. You will be guided on how to uncover and become aware of negative patterns that can be playing out in your life and how to reprogram your subconscious mind to inevitably break these harmful behaviors. Our facilitator tonight is L Geldenhuys, the author of A Guide to Shadow Work, which you can find on Amazon. Michelle began her spiritual journey at the age of 17 and has explored many healing modalities, such as Vision Quest, TRE, Zen meditation, Reiki, family constellations, chakra and energy healing, past life regressions, and much more. That is a whole list. It has always been her passion to guide people back to self-love and back to self-acceptance. So I'm going to pull Michelle up on screen with me, and I can see from your comments, there's a whole variety of, yes, you know about it, you don't know about it, vaguely, a little bit, intrigued. So tonight we're all going to get on the same page. And I'm going to just pull Michelle up here. Great. Michelle, come and join me up here. And Megan, I see you're here too. Megan's on our team. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to let you take it away. I'm going to go off the stage now, and I will pull, if any of you plan to come up on screen, there'll be some points where we do that. I will be pulling you up on stage.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's beautiful and interesting to see where everybody's from. Thank you, Daphne. So my name is L Geldenhuys. It can be a bit of a difficult name to pronounce. It's an Afrikaans name. My father's side of the family is Afrikaans and my mother's side of the family is British. Just to give you a little bit of background. So a little bit of background on me is I'm a 39-year-old lesbian. I'm an author from South Africa. I have had quite a long journey in this life with regards to I've had my own battle with depression and anxiety and those sort of things. I've had a run in my younger days with addiction and so on. So I've had a bit of a road, which has actually led me into the spiritual path. You know, I think adversities that happen to us in our lives push us into our greatest awakening. So our pain becomes our gift, which I'm going to teach you all about today. So I see in the comments, a lot of you don't really or are not familiar with shadow work as yet. So let us begin with that. So I'm going to try and speak as slowly as possible. And I'm going to try and be as clear as possible because I do understand that my accent can sometimes be difficult to understand. So if you miss something or you want me to explain something a little bit deeper for you or anything like that, please ask questions. I will be answering questions a little bit later after I explain everything. I will have a look and see what's there, what questions come up for you guys. So yeah, I'm really excited. Just a little bit of background as well. The 3 books that I've written. The first is basically an autobiography, Evolution of a Battered Mind, just detailing the adversities I faced in life and why I came to a point of spiritual awakening and why I've done all the soul work. What brought me to that point? It also covers, my coming out story and that sort of thing. And my second book, A Guide to Shadow Work, which is the reason for this session today. I wrote this book to guide people basically into one of the most powerful spiritual paths that exist at this moment. And the third book, 365 Shades of Love, is just a book of 365 quotes, 1 quote for each day of the year, positive quote. Anyway, so let's begin. Okay, what is the shadow? All right, so within ourselves and within the entire universe, in this entire physical universe, we have two aspects. We have consciousness and we have unconsciousness. So let's begin with what consciousness is. All right? Consciousness is what we know. Everything that we know about ourselves, about our world, about, everything that is known. So consciousness, people describe consciousness as light because it is light. Light is awareness. Light is consciousness. So you'll hear people say things like when they refer to consciousness or knowing something, they'll say, oh, please shed light on that subject for me, because it's literally becoming aware of something, knowing something. So consciousness is light, is the light of awareness. Okay. And on the opposite end of the scale, we have unconsciousness, which is not necessarily a negative aspect. Neither of them are negative or positive. They both exist everywhere simultaneously. Okay. And unconsciousness is basically everything that is not known, everything that is out of our awareness, everything that is, how can we say, still waiting to be discovered or waiting to be known. That's why the saying, there's a saying, people will say, if they don't understand something or they don't know something, they will say, I'm in the dark, because it's what is unknown. So when we talk about light and dark, we're not talking about good and evil. We're literally talking about consciousness, and we're talking about unconsciousness, right? The shadow is unconsciousness, right? That's what we mean when we talk about the shadow. And shadow work has gotten a lot of attention in the last few years, and it's coming up as quite a trend, people working with shadow work, because it's stepping into this unconscious and finding what is lying there in the dark that we need to know to help us to live more fulfilling and beautiful lives. Okay, so just to recap, consciousness is light, unconsciousness is dark. Consciousness is known, unconsciousness is unknown. Consciousness is being aware of, unconsciousness is being unaware of. Okay, and the unconsciousness is where our shadow lies. So if you want to look at something, for example, you look up at the night sky in the evening, go outside and have a look. I love lying under the stars. And you look up at the sky and you see all these bright stars. Okay, and there's a lot of darkness, but there's a lot of bright stars shining. So you can think of the night sky as your mind. What you know are those stars. Your consciousness are those stars shining. But all that darkness is everything that is unknown, everything that is lying in your unconscious. Okay? And it's been proven, it's scientifically proven that we are currently only 1/10 conscious. And this is, they derive this from how much percentage of our DNA is active, which is only 1/10. So we are 1/10 conscious, and we are 9/10 unconscious or subconscious. So there is a lot that is lying there in the shadows that is playing the strings of our lives, that is pulling the strings of our lives and creating confusion and chaos that we are totally unaware of. And that is why shadow work is important, is because we go into all that we are unaware of, we shed light on it, and we bring it out into our awareness, and we integrate it so that we become whole and we become free and we live our fullest expression. Okay, so let's move on to the next. The next segment is why shadow. Why is the shadow there? Where does it come from? Where does the shadow come from? And why is it there? Right, now, every single one of us have experienced trauma in our childhood. I was talking to another group about a week ago, and I was explaining to them that there's a moment in our childhood, in every single one of our childhoods, where a traumatic event happens where your reality shatters. And I call it the shattering, because it's that moment as a young child, as a young person, where you realize for the first time that the world can be unjust and unfair and hurtful. And it's almost like our reality shatters and our perception changes. And when these traumatic events happen, our consciousness can literally not deal with it. It's so painful that what it does is it pushes these traumatic events back into our unconscious or subconscious, into the shadows, because we cannot push it away from us. We cannot deny it or reject it. But what we do is we push it back into the shadows and it sits there. We think it's gone, but it's not gone. It can never disappear. So we push it back there into the shadows, and what happens throughout our lives is this trauma is playing the strings of our reality, and we don't even realize it. Until we do shadow work, we don't realize it. So what happens is that we have unconscious behaviors that cause a lot of chaos and pain for us. And I know I can pretty much guarantee that every one of us that are sitting here have had moments where you might be acting out. You might be in the middle of acting out something, or in an argument with somebody, and you're busy saying something. And immediately you're thinking to yourself in your head, why am I acting this way? Why am I speaking to this person this way? Why am I behaving like this? This is not me. I don't like this. I'm not this person. This is not me. Or you might act out, and then afterwards you might look back and go, why on earth did I do that? Why did I treat this person that way? Or why did I do that? That was just, it was nasty, it was negative, and that's not me. So yes, it was not you. It's not the authentic you. It's the unconscious aspect, the shadow that is playing out in your life, because it's still there, all right? So these are unconscious behaviors, and what happens is these unconscious behaviors manifest as patterns in our lives, manifest as patterns, because until we are aware of it, it keeps on manifesting and keeps on manifesting, and we tend to sit down sometimes and go, why do I continue manifesting these negative situations in my life? Why do I keep having dead-end relationships? Why do I always end up with people who treat me badly? Why do I always end up in jobs that are unfulfilling? Why this, why that? These patterns are playing out due to our unconscious trauma. That's basically what the shadow is our unconscious trauma. Right, so this unconscious trauma causes us to build these survival and protection mechanisms around ourselves. Okay, to protect ourselves. Basically, it's to protect yourself. It's your mind trying to protect you from further pain and hurt. So the mind has a survival instinct. The ego has a survival instinct, and it's trying to protect you from further hurt. But what it's actually doing is it's pushing you further away from who you really are. It's pushing you away from unconditional love, because to love yourself unconditionally is to accept all the parts of you, not only the parts that feel good. It's about accepting the parts that don't feel good too. Okay, so what does shadow work feel like? I get this question a lot. What should it feel like? How do you know you're doing it right? Or how do you know any of that? So shadow work, if I'm truthful with you, because I believe in honesty, shadow work is not going to feel great. It's not like yoga or meditation that is designed to make you feel peaceful and wonderful. And those modalities are brilliant, and they're there for a reason, and they help us to expand our light and our love and all of that, which is amazing. And we need that. We absolutely need that. You can't get trapped in one or the other. You need a balance. But shadow work is going to feel uncomfortable, and it is going to feel, at times, it could feel downright excruciating, because what it does is it calls us to step into those really tough emotions and those tough feelings, the feelings that we have been avoiding our entire lives, those feelings that we have been judging within ourselves. It's going to require us to step into shame, into guilt, into anger, into resentment, and into all these feelings that we've been avoiding and we've been pushing away from ourselves. And although initially it's going to feel uncomfortable, the rewards at the end of it are absolutely so beautifully amazing. Because once you have stepped into those feelings and places that you've been so fearful of, once you've stepped in and you've owned it and you've felt it, there's no longer anything to fear. There's no longer anything to judge. And what happens then is you become whole, and you step into pure, unconditional self-love. And when you step into unconditional self-love, it opens the door to step into relationships that are pure, unconditional love. So if you ask me, shadow work is the most important work that we can do, because it's integrating the parts of ourselves that we have split away. Okay, so do we have any questions up until this point? I'd love to see if there's anything I can clarify for anybody. If there's anything that you would like to ask, please feel free. Thank you, Madison. I hope I did explain that. I hope I did explain that well. I'm just having a look here. I'm having a look here in the chat to see if anything comes up. All right. Well, I'm going to move on then. Right. So I want to bring up something interesting, just to indicate to everybody how important the shadow is and how it can affect different people. Let me just pause there. Okay, Tara, thank you. Oh, all right. Thank you, Tara, for that. Yes. Okay, so let me show you. Let me show you guys another scenario, just to show you how important the shadow is in our lives. Courtney, how will we know when we've reached self-love? How will you know when you've reached self-love? That's a great question. You will know this because firstly, your judgments of yourself will fall away. That negative self-talk will fall away. So those things that we will say to ourselves in our head, oh, you're not good enough, and oh, why don't you this, and why this and that, that negative self-talk will cease. And your judgments of self will cease. And you will see this love outplaying in the world around you. you will find that you have more compassion for other people. You will find that you have more understanding. You will find that you are in a playfulness. One of the things I say is playfulness and childlike energy is such a beautiful thing, and that's how you know you're really in self-love. Is you become playful like a child again. You get this magic. You feel this magic, and you have this appreciation for life and for everything around you again. And it's a beautiful place to be. And the only way that we get to that place is by accepting all of ourselves, stuff and the bad stuff, because what shadow work will teach you is none of it is good and none of it is bad. It all just is. Okay. And I will explain that further. So I was going to explain earlier, I was going to give you guys an example of how powerful the shadow is. Now, I'm sure most of you know that you get sort of primarily two different sort of personality types in this world, and you get the empath and you get the narcissist. Now, I want to explain that scenario a little bit to you, just to give you an idea of how the shadow can play out in different people's lives. Now, both an empath and a narcissist, if you don't know what those are, empaths are people who are very sensitive and they feel into other people's energies, and narcissists can tend to be quite nasty people, very self-absorbed and that sort of thing. And empaths and narcissists tend to sort of navigate towards each other in relationships. And a lot of the people that I've worked with have had these sort of encounters. A lot of empaths have had encounters with narcissists that has turned out to be not so great. So I want to explain how the shadow plays out in this. So both narcissist and empath have experienced deep trauma in their childhood. Everybody has, right? So both of them have experienced trauma, severe trauma. What happens with the empath is this trauma that is in the shadow. Because of this trauma, the empath has fragmented themselves. You can fragment yourself, because you're trying to distance yourself from the pain. But an empath is always in the shadow. The empath is very aware of their shadow. They might not know that it's called a shadow, but they're very aware of it to quite a intense degree that they'll even self-judge themselves on the inside. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm feeling shameful. I'm guilty. I'm this and that, because they're very stuck in the shadow. That's why I say to a lot of empaths, you got to learn to bring yourself back into the light and pull yourself out of the self-judgment and start to learn to heal the shadow, as opposed to just getting stuck in it. But what happens is they get a bit stuck in the shadow, but they're very aware of the shadow, and therefore they're very aware of other people's shadow out there. So that is the empath's journey. Now, what happens with the narcissist is they've experienced such deep trauma that they've split themselves completely in half, completely. So they've got their conscious aspect, and they've split away that shadow aspect completely, because it was so painful for them. And they no longer have any awareness of their shadow. And that is why, if you've ever sat with a narcissist in whatever relationship it might have been, it could have been a parent or a friend or a partner, and you've actually wanted to point something out to them, and you might have said, don't you see that behavior of yours, or that thing that you said was hurtful, or that thing that you did? And they are completely oblivious to it. They cannot see it. And they might project back onto you or cause an argument or something like that, because they've literally split themselves so far away from their shadow aspect that they cannot see it or perceive it any longer. So that is quite a powerful indication of how the shadow can affect our lives. Jeannie, yes. Yes, so yeah, unfortunately it is narcissists can cause pain, and the problem is that they tend to never really live fulfilling lives and connect with people because of the split in their personality, the split that they've split away from the shadow. So my point with that is that it is very important to do shadow work, because it enhances our realities and it enhances our experience of this life. And it helps us to really connect with people and to understand ourselves and to understand other people. Because we all have a shadow aspect. Nobody is on this planet that is free from the shadow. Not a single person. Okay, so hi, Rachel. So shadow work is basically going into consciously going into these parts of ourselves that we've sort of fragmented and that we've moved ourselves away from, the uncomfortable stuff. All those feelings inside of you that you've judged, the parts of you that you've judged. It's basically going and saying, yes, at that point in time in my life, I had narcissistic traits and I treated those people badly and I stole that thing, or I alienated that person, or I was nasty to that person, or I was unkind there. Yes, I did those things and I feel it and it hurt me too, and it doesn't feel great and I feel shameful about it, but I own it. I own it. It is part of me, and I was acting unconsciously due to the trauma that I experienced, and I accept it and I forgive myself and I love that part of myself too. And when we do that, we integrate that aspect, we integrate it into ourselves, and we finally become whole. All right. Because shadow work is also about frequency. We are all vibration, we are all energy. So good feeling stuff is light. It feels light. It's light energy. It's also about weight. So when somebody has dealt with something that's particularly hard, they might say, oh, a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like I'm walking on air, because you feel lighter. And when something doesn't feel good, it feels heavy. You say, oh, I'm feeling so heavy. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling, because that's heavy vibration, low vibration stuff like shame and guilt and anger is low vibration. So it's heavy. It sits heavy in us. So when we own something and we take it and we say, yes, that's mine, but I love it, and we give it love, because love is the highest vibration in this universe, what happens is we lighten that energy. We lighten that energy and we raise our vibration. So shadow work is also about raising our vibration. And if you want to feel that beautiful feeling of feeling more alive, which is feeling lighter and feeling like you're walking on cloud 9, that's shadow work. That's integrating, that's raising our vibration. Because remember, energy can never be destroyed. That's the first thing they teach you in science. Energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be transformed. So we are not here to ignore and destroy and reject certain energies. We are here to integrate those energies and transform those energies into something beautiful. Right? Does anybody have any questions so far? Are there any questions anything I can clarify? I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee because it's really, really early for me. All right, Kat. Hi, Kat. You're welcome. Yes. Look, I'm really, really honored. I'm really honored to be here and to share my insights from my journey and the work that I've done. Suffering with depression, a very large part of depression is getting stuck in the shadow and not being able to pull yourself out of it. So having depression actually helped me to devise and to learn ways of being able to move between the light and the dark, to be in the light when I choose to be and be happy and all of those things, but to also be able to go into the dark aspect and go, oh, I need to deal with this thing that is sitting uncomfortable for me, this trauma that happened to me. I need to go in there and I need to feel it, and I need to transform that energy. So yes, it's been many years of work and dedication to the path, and what is it that we dedicate ourselves to? primarily in shadow work? Can anybody answer that for me? Let me ask a question. What concept do we dedicate ourselves to in this process of shadow work? If anybody wants to try and answer that. Dark nights of the soul. Hi, Nadia. Yes. Right. So I'll just read out what you've said. I've heard the phrase dark nights of the soul. When talking about shadow work, can you shed light on this phrase in relation to shadow work? Is this phrase commonly used? Yes. Very, very commonly used. The dark night of the soul. Right. Now, that is a place within you that you go to. Shamans talk about it a lot because it happens to people and they don't really know what's happening to them. So what happens is, through our journey of life, society has taught us to ignore and deny these aspects of ourselves that feel uncomfortable. So we're constantly trying to feel better, feel good, and all of those things. But when we deny this shadow aspect for long enough, what happens is we don't even consciously have to go into the shadow. It comes up so vigorously and so viciously that it throws us into this, and it can last for days. In fact, I've had a dark nights of the soul that has lasted months, where you are literally in this dark place within you. It is the most severe depression that you could ever imagine, where you go into the darkest parts of yourself. You start to feel this shame and this anger, and it overcomes you and it overwhelms you. Some people can even get suicidal tendencies due to that, because it's quite a serious thing, the dark nights of the soul. But if you get to a point where you can understand what is happening, you can actually embrace that place that you're in, embrace it, and start learning from it, because it is darkness that we start to shed light. We start to shed light on things. We start to become conscious of things, and therefore we begin to integrate it. So the dark nights of the soul is really being thrown deep into the shadow. It's being thrown into shadow work, whether you want it or not. Because like I said, we cannot deny or split off these aspects. We have to work with it on a regular basis. Since I've been doing regular shadow work, I have not had a dark night of the soul. A dark night of the soul is a terrifying place to be if you're not cognizant of what it means and what it is. The dark nights of the soul is basically being in the absolute depths of your shadow. So Nadia, thank you very much for that question. That's very important for people to know, and I'm sure a lot of people here have experienced this dark nights of the soul. And I wish I could say I could give you something to do or a modality to practice or something to do to pull you out of it, but really the only way to pull yourself out of it is to embrace it and to sit with it, and to sit with the feelings, and not to resist it, because all it is our unconscious aspects wanting to be known, looking for attention. It's just like a small child. I've done some work with shamans where they've said, integrating ourselves children home. And just like a child who doesn't get attention from you, they're going to throw a tantrum. And that's what our painful aspects do when we don't give it attention, is it throws tantrums. And those tantrums feel very, very uncomfortable for us, and it can cause a lot of chaos in our lives. Thank you, Nadia. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Daphne, I see you've said you've survived the darkest place 3 times. So you've had a dark night of the soul 3 times. That's powerful. Some people, haven't really even been into the dark nights of the soul yet, or maybe only once. So the fact that you've been there 3 times, it means you're deep in your awakening. You're awakening to your true self. The dark nights of the soul will show you who you really are. I know that sounds, you don't want to hear that, because you don't want to have to step into it. But the thing is, when we step into the darkest parts of ourselves, we realize how strong and resilient we are, and we realize who we truly are. It's about peeling away layers of who we are not to embrace who we truly are, right? Yes, definitely. That's great. Sorry, Madison, let me have a look there. Rachel had some questions. What are some specific ways I could do shadow work? Techniques, what should I do? All right, techniques. Shadow work is the easiest technique to do is to sit quietly with yourself. It's meditation, but it's deeper than a meditation. It's sitting with yourself. And this is work that you only do alone. Because it's about being extremely and excruciatingly honest with yourself. And it's about sitting down and unpacking what it is, what the painful aspects are. What am I feeling right now? It's asking yourself, what am I feeling when you're feeling uncomfortable? And it's about targeting that feeling. What is it? Is it shame? Is it guilt? And then going deeper into that. Where does it come from? What traumatic experience? It's really about going back into our traumatic experiences and reliving those experiences within ourselves, regardless of how difficult it is. Our job in this life is not to bypass those traumatic experiences. It's about going back into those traumatic experiences and re-feeling them and reliving them inside and feeling all those emotions that come up. Because once we feel and embrace those emotions, we immediately bring light to it, light of consciousness. We become aware of it, and the energy starts to transform. Right? Jeannie, let me read what you've said. Not everyone will applaud you for stepping into your power and embracing your shadow, especially if embracing your shadow means no longer serving a purpose in selfish and willfully ignorant people's lives. Yes, that's true. Stepping into who you truly are and becoming your true authentic self and not this facade that many people out there are living, you are going to lose certain relationships and certain friends, but you are going to make a whole new community of people who are doing the work. That is the beauty of this journey, the spiritual journey, is finding a community like this. This is a beautiful community. I'm so blessed that I found this community and medicine and knowing that there's this beautiful work being done on the other side of the planet. It makes me feel so appreciative of humanity. And you will find other people. The thing is to find, and it's not, you don't even need to go out and look for it, because once your vibration starts to change, you attract, that's the law of attraction. You will attract people who are on the same vibration as you. So at first, yes, you will lose people who were perhaps only interested in you because of the good stuff you were portraying. Oh, this. But the more authentic you become and the deeper you step into yourself, the sort of, how can I say it, the fake people or the people who didn't love the core of you will move out of your life. And that's okay, because new people will move into your life and you will find new communities and you will find new friends and so on. So my question earlier was, what is it? What aspect does shadow work require us to be absolutely 100% dedicated to? And the answer to that question is truth. Shadow work is an absolute 100% dedication to truth. So that is finding the core of the trauma, realizing that there was an unconscious behavior relating to that, and that's not you. That's not the authentic you. The authentic you, of course, is unconditional love. Once you get to the core of you, you will realize that all you are and everything that you are is unconditional love and perfection. All right, so let's move on to the part where I'm going to invite some of you on stage. Hi, Amy Bauer Socks. How well does this work for people who are autistic? I think that affects my level of self-awareness. All right, so in my personal opinion, autism is high intelligence, very high intelligence. And this shadow work is there for anyone else to do, because I think that some people, you know, again, I will say that society's labeled things as good and bad. You know, that's mentally healthy is good, and mentally unhealthy is bad, and that's good and that's bad. And none of it is that. And I think that, you know, people with autism or any kind of other, you know, mental setback or something like that, although I don't see it as a setback, can carry a certain amounts of shame around that. And shame is a feeling of, it's a shadow feeling. So it's about turning that shame into pride and into something to be proud of. You know, autism or any kind of challenge that we deal with in this life is a blessing. And I'm going to explain that later. It's a gift, because you get to understand people in life so much deeper. And you have compassion for other people in your situation, or in anybody that you can relate to. You have a deeper connection with others and with reality. It's beautiful. So shadow work is there for anybody who feels different, or any kind of feeling that doesn't feel like you fit in, or any feeling that doesn't feel good for you, because you can transform those feelings. You can transform them, you can accept them, and you can say, okay, I love that part of myself. It's about loving all parts of yourself. Saying, okay, I love that part of myself that feels that autism is a setback for me. I love that part of myself that thinks that, because that's part of me too. But I have to acknowledge the opposite side of the part of me that knows that that is a gift, and that makes me special, and that makes me connected and deep and compassionate. All right, so right now I'm going to move on to another part where of this journey we are on together. So in my book, A Guide to Shadow Work, I speak about 4 important elements of shadow work, where we unpack the shadow, how we step into the shadow, right? And these four elements are, number 1 is the pattern. We have to start by recognizing the pattern that's playing out in our lives. And the way we do this is by looking at the concept of mirroring and triggering. Okay. Number 2 is the shadow. We become aware of the shadow. Once we unpack the pattern, we become aware of the shadow. Number 3 is inner child work. Inner child work is so integral to shadow work, and I'm going to go into that very shortly with you. Healing the inner child is the most powerful healing we can do. And then number 4 is the gift. What is our personal unique gift that we've discovered through shadow work? Okay. So I'd like to ask somebody who is brave enough to come and join me on stage, who would like to perhaps talk about a pattern, a negative pattern that they may have uncovered in their lives. So you can help me, sort of volunteer and help me on stage, so we can show the rest of the audience how we recognize our patterns and how we unpack those patterns. So Madison, maybe you can choose somebody for me and bring somebody up on stage for me. I'm not sure who would like to come and join me. That would be great.